first part of our conference discussions, which will concentrate on fourth in the international decade for the eradication of colonialism, current situation and challenge. And it's a privilege for me to give the floor to co-founder of Movement for Change of Bonaire, Ms. Kaile Finies. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Abbasov. Dear distinguished delegates, all protocols observed. I never thought that I, a young woman from a tiny island of less than 300 square kilometers in the Caribbean, would get the opportunity to talk about my people's struggle to an audience of world leaders such as you all present here today. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to use our voices and to be heard. 10-10-10. This date marked the dissolution of the Netherlands Antilles and the beginning of a new era, as Bonaire became a special municipality of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. While it brought with it promises of stability and prosperity, it has also created profound cultural challenges affecting everything from our language to our education, our youth, our housing, and even our sense of identity. Let's start with language. It is more than just words. It's the foundation of our culture and our way of expressing who we are. In Bonaire, we speak Papiamento, a language that has been passed down through generations. It has created by our ancestors and can be traced back to the 17th century, when African slaves who were brought to our island started communicating with the native indigenous peoples. Papiamento directly translates to talk. It was born purely out of the need for survival, and it lives on till this day. Since 10-10-10, the influence of the Dutch language has been steadily increasing. While Dutch is the official language of governance and education, it is not the language spoken amongst the people of the island. This has led to a widening gap between the government and the people. Governance is in Dutch, while our society functions in Papiamento. In schools, Dutch has become the primary language of instruction, creating barriers for many of our children who grow up speaking Papiamento. Imagine being a young child, filled with curiosity and the desire to learn, but being forced to do so in a language that feels foreign and disconnected from your everyday life. This creates an educational divide, leaving many of our youth struggling to keep up, feeling alienated within their own schooling. They feel stupid because they are not fluent in Dutch. Do you have any idea how exhausting it is to constantly have to translate who you are just so outsiders can understand you on your own island? The result? An educational system that intentionally disadvantages our children and threatens our culture. In this modern day, when everyone has a device in their hands, a shocking change and very clear attempt at erasing the Bonairean identity came from the use of emojis. There are flags from every country on your keyboard. For many social media users, the use of the Bonairean flag was switched to the Dutch flag. We were not able to post, comment, or use our own flag in the digital world. Luckily, after many complaints, the majority of websites and apps reversed this change. This brings me to the issue of youth and identity. I was only 13 years old when everything started changing back in 10-10-10. I didn't understand what was going on. My father, James Finies, who you just heard speak, he was called crazy, a madman, and even arrested for trying to voice his opinion. All I understood at the time was that I was losing my father right before my eyes. I was robbed of a normal childhood with a father figure, all because my father was brave enough to fight against the injustices happening right before our eyes. We're now 14 years later, and I am much wiser and see things more clearly. Now I understand why he did what he had to do. The youth on Bonaire is growing up in a world where they are caught between two cultures, their Bonairean heritage and the Dutch influence that dominates their education and governance. This tug of war creates confusion about identity. Who are we? Bonairean, Dutch, somewhere in between? As someone with a Bonairean father and a Dutch mother, I know this struggle all too well. I studied communication, and I know how language can affect our sense of self-identity. I realized that when I speak Dutch, I am more serious, selfish, and closed off. When I speak Papiamentu, I am kinder, warmer, more open-hearted. That is what it means to be a Bonairean. In our language, we don't have a distinction between him or her, they or them. There is no real other. Everyone is referred to as one people. We are equals. We are kind people. We care about our neighbors. We greet everyone, everywhere, no matter the time or place. While the Dutch system promises a better future, this lifestyle comes at a cost to our own culture and identity. My peers and I are starting to feel like outsiders on our own island. These cultural differences manifest not only in language and education, but also in everyday life. Since 10-10-10, we've seen an influx of Dutch expatriates who come to our island with different expectations, different customs, and different ways of life. While diversity is supposed to be enriching, it can also create tension when one culture begins to overshadow the other. One clear example is in housing. The arrival of Dutch expatriates has led to a rising property values and a shift in the housing market. Many Bonaireans find themselves being pushed out of their own homes and communities, unable to afford decent housing as Dutch newcomers come to drive up the cost of living. This creates a stark divide. New modern homes for the Dutch, while many locals are left in substandard housing or pushed to the margins of the island. I've seen homes that belong to local generations be put up for sale. Because a Dutch person moved in next door, decided to do renovations, which increased the property value and thus also the property taxes. This causes local families to not be able to afford their own home anymore because the property taxes are unpayable. What happens next? The local families are forced out of their home. They have to put it up for sale, and another Dutch family moves in. It's a cycle. The very idea of home is changing for Bonaireans, as the place we've known for generations becomes less and less accessible to us. I, for example, still live at home with my parents. I love them, but I would like a place of my own. I can't afford it, and I'm 27 years old. This brings us to the issue of property. Despite being part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, many Bonaireans still live in poverty. The promise of 10-10-10 was to improve living standards and align Bonaire with the prosperity of European Netherlands. But the reality has been far from that. There's a strong desire for more local autonomy, for the ability to make decisions that are in the best interest of the Bonaire and its people, rather than being dictated by policies made far away in the Netherlands. The relationship between Bonaire and the Netherlands is complex. And while there have been benefits to being part of the kingdom, it is clear that the current arrangement is not without its flaws. The people of Bonaire are calling for a governance model that respects our culture, our language, our identity, and our right to shape our own future. This will allow us, the people of the island, to decide what to do that's the best interest for the island. An example of this is how we can use our tax money to strengthen our cultural identity for generations to come. Some ideas for what our island currently lacks that seems to be normal for other countries around the world. A cultural center. so locals as well as visitors can learn about the cultural history of Bonaire. It can be a gathering place where the youth can learn and create, and the elderly can pass down valuable lessons about our culture, music, cuisine, and history. Statues. We need historical figures represented as statues, so everyone can see that our people are resilient, brave, and strong. Incorporating history curriculum about our actual Bonairean history, not that of the Dutch kingdom, so that our kids will learn that we have the power to overcome anything and that we are not meant to be governed by a foreign country. Building a trade school, so everyone can learn the skills needed to keep society running effectively and efficiently. Building a college or university, so our youth isn't forced to leave the island in hopes of gaining more knowledge. In conclusion, 10-10-10 has been since 10-10-10, Bonaire has been navigating a delicate balance between its heritage and its place within the Dutch kingdom. While the Dutch governance has brought certain benefits, it has also created significant cultural tensions. From language and education to housing and social inequality, the impact is deeply felt within the everyday lives of the Bonairean people. Despite these challenges, Bonaire remains resilient. Our people are proud, resourceful, and deeply connected to nature. The call for more governance, for more self-governance, is not a rejection of the Netherlands, but rather a call for a relationship that is more fair, more respectful, and more reflective of who we are as a people. We stand at a crossroads, and the future of Bonaire depends on how we navigate this uncharted path before us. It is my hope that we can work towards a governance model that honors our culture, protects our rights, and ensures that every Bonairean can thrive in the land that we call home. This is why we are here today, to ask for your support in helping us gain more self-governance. The t-shirt I'm wearing right now, I made it back in 2016 because I got tired of explaining where I am from. I had been at university in the United States for less than 1 year. My t-shirt says Caribeña. It means Caribbean. When I'm asked where I'm from, I don't say I'm from an island within the Dutch kingdom. I don't say I'm from the Dutch Caribbean. I say I'm from a small island in the southern Caribbean, very close to the northern coast of Venezuela. I am from Bonaire. I'm not Dutch. I'm Caribbean. I'm Bonairean. Mita Caribeña, mita Bonaireano. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kaile, for such insightful speech, insightful words. We discovered a lot of information about the reality in Bonaire. Thank you very much.